So another thing that you need to do in the data analysis project, part 2, is to use the pivot table function feature of Excel to calculate the means of your quantitative variables within the categories or within the values of your categorical explanatory variables. So in this case, my individuals are cities, and my categorical variable is the region of the U.S. That each city falls into. So I'm going to be calculating for my quantitative variables, for example, for the commute variable, I'm going to be calculating what's the mean percentage of bike commuters in cities in the west, what's the mean percentage of bike commuters in cities that are in the south, and so on. So the way to do that, it's pretty similar to the Windows version. So in the Mac version, you go to the pivot table function is actually in a different spot. It's in this data tab here. So click on the data tab, and let's see, it's right over here on the left. Make sure you click the arrow here to get the choices. We want to create manual pivot table. And we'll select all of our variables. Click that button there to select with your mouse. So select all of your variables, and then we've got our selection, and make sure it's going to create the pivot table in a new worksheet. So that's that option there. And we should be set. Click OK. Alright, great. We've got our blank pivot table here, and this is the pivot table builder. So first thing we want is in the row area, we want our categorical variable. So find that. In my case, it's region. And you just click on that variable in this list up at the top and drag it down to row labels. Alright, so that's the first step. And let's zoom in a little bit here. Okay. And then we want to put our quantitative variables in the values box down here. So I'm going to use commute and fatality rate, the number of bike fatalities per 10,000 bike commuters, and gas price. So these are three quantitative variables including my response variable. But by default, it's giving us the sum of these variables within each of these categories, and we want the average, so we want the mean. So the way to change that is to click on this little I, the information icon, in the values box for each of the variables, and change the summarize by option to average. And click OK, and you're going to do that for each of your three quantitative variables. And then just to make it a little easier to compare these values, I would select the values in the table, go back to the Home tab, and reduce the number of decimals if you've got variables that give you a bunch of decimals like mine did. And this makes it a little easier to compare the values, which is what I ask you to do, is just to comment on these mean values and the variation between the groups that are defined by your categorical variable. So we can see that the percentage of people commuting by bike is the highest in the west, and it's next in the northeast, and then it's lowest in the Midwest and South. And then in the case of fatality rate, there's the most bike fatalities per 10,000 bike commuters in the South, the lowest in the West. And similarly for gas price, we can see that the highest gas prices are in the West, followed by the Northeast and Midwest, and then the lowest gas prices in the South. So that's all I'm asking for in terms of the description, is just to compare the mean values of your quantitative variables between the groups that are defined by the values of your categorical variable.